literally with her in her office was covering the Wyndham, New Hampshire audit that took place. And as you guys know, SB 43 passed with like Democrats and Republicans coming together for this issue. And so for me personally, that was like one of the biggest unifying moments when it came to our elections during a time where the country was so divided on this subject. And so we had a really good opportunity in New Hampshire to get this right and have full transparency. And what basically transpired after that was anything but. I personally was there almost every single day of that audit, and I worked directly with Philip Stark, the UC Berkeley professor, Harry Kirsty. I was one of few national reporters covering it, and they were doing a great job up until there were some issues with everything from chain of custody, the footage that went out, and I don't know if you guys know this, SB 43 required that this entire audit be streamed. And so this is so incredibly important because regardless of what the answers are, like nobody knew what was the cause of the discrepancies, but America wanted to know, and America deserved to know, not just New Hampshire, but the entire country. And this was such a big, powerful moment that you had unanimously united a legislature to pass this bill to get to the bottom of it, which was amazing. And all that had to be done was the law had to be followed. And in that law, it states that the processes had to be streamed. And there's nothing more important than your ballot. And your ballot should be treated like currency. I mean, overseas, I've worked with people in the military who provided aerial support for the transferring of ballots in countries where they're fighting to have the elections we have here. And what happened with this audit and the chain of custody that was breached, the fact that right now, unfortunately, her image is on camera in the middle of the night after security cameras went out with no explanation. And even if it were just a tech issue, she is now associated on a national stage as having been there in the middle of the night with unsecured voting machines and ballots. And the crazy thing is the first night that this audit took place, when the voting machines and the ballots, the seals had not been broken. The cameras went all through the night. It was only the second night after the seals had been broken during that day for the voting machines and the bags of ballots that now we have no idea who had access to those ballots. And it's honestly, it's unfortunate because we had this opportunity to get it right. And even the audit team, the 3 experts that were chosen to handle this came to me as a reporter and said, how can we restore public trust after this? And I said, I don't know that you entirely can, because like there's no way to prove what happened that day. And when I don't know why or how she got the call or when she showed up, but none of it was documented. When she got the call, she didn't film going up to the facility. Nothing was, like it was not taken seriously like it should have been. And when I interviewed her after the fact, asking these questions, I did not get the feeling that she truly cared about the objectivity here and what this meant to the people. And this wasn't a right versus left issue. It was, again, unanimously passed. And we had this opportunity, and nobody was held accountable to this day for that breach of trust. And I fear with these next coming elections, things have only gotten more tense. And we can expect moving forward, election litigation is going to be a thing. There are going to be people that bring forth election lawsuits. Not all, I mean, you have to be objective when presented with any allegation, especially on the election integrity front. And if you have somebody who already right now is questionable with their handling of these very issues, then it's going to be a disaster moving forward when you have any election integrity lawsuit coming into her courtroom, when a lot of the grassroots people that are here in this room today, myself included, I have no idea what the outcome of that audit was, but it should have been like ran with the same level of professionalism you would run a bank with. And you would not ever find a bank, I used to work for one right here in Concord, you would never find cameras there stop working in the middle of the night while ATMs and vaults were left wide open. It wouldn't happen. But this happened with our ballots and our voting machines during a critical audit. And someone has to be held responsible for that, and she's the one that showed up on those cameras in the middle of the night. So with all due respect, no election litigation ever going through her courtroom as a judge is going to be seen in the eyes of the public as being viewed fairly. And that's the sad reality. So no disrespect for her, but I think it's so incredibly important that moving forward during this time where our country is so divided on this issue, we need to make sure that whoever is put in this position to handle these kinds of cases have the ability to work with people on both sides and have that national trust. And I just don't feel like she does at this point from my personal experience working with her on this issue. And no disrespect to her at all, but this is something that is going to be a very hotly debated and litigated issue moving forward. And unfortunately, she has too many red flags, and there's a lot of people right here in New Hampshire that spend a very large amount of time working on these issues. And if she can't coexist and work with them, I mean, that's an issue in and of itself. We need public trust on both sides, and I just feel like she dropped the ball when it came to SB 43 in that audit, and someone needs to be held accountable. So.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the council?
Just what was your name again?
Heather Mullins.
And what news outlet did you?
So I'm independent, but I actually reported this with Real America's Voice. I was live with,
Okay.
yeah, on something. But I mean, at the end of the day, that it's really irrelevant. It's a matter of public.
Okay.
No, I love.
Now I'm gonna cross examine you.
Yeah, go for it.
So, very articulate. I appreciate your comments and coming here to the setting, and it's very impressive what you have to say. Prior to the elections that you were involved in, did you follow elections in New Hampshire?
So I've actually, when I first started working as a reporter, I actually went down to Georgia to cover their recount after the 2020 election, mainly
But I mean,
in New Hampshire, some of
prior
them.
to 2020 or 2018, did you ever witness or look at New Hampshire elections as close as you did?
No.
Okay, because and this is just me speaking,
Yeah.
is that we have a Secretary of State who retired.
Yeah.
Okay, he was a part of over 500 recount elections. And some of these irregularities just happen once in a while. That's why we have recounts, so that's why we go back and review what we've done, we do after action reports. But New Hampshire is really the gold standard for elections. Do you know that when I was in Afghanistan, part of the interagency election team, the Karzai election, okay, in 2010, the IEC, which is the Independent Election Commission, automatically knew that 30% of that vote was going to be fraudulent. Okay, could you imagine in this state, in this country, that we had 30% of ballots just automatically starting out fraudulent? New Hampshire is very, very, very minute. Prior to 2020, 18, Wyndham was an exception, and we learned from that. We'll get better, and we'll move forward. I take your comments seriously, but I think New Hampshire, that signal was sent and received, and they're only going to do better in the future.
I agree with that. The one thing I will caution you though is that because of the ball that got dropped with that in New Hampshire, like I said, the public support, right? Like there's some tons of well-qualified people that could be appointed to this judge, right? Why choose someone who, from a public standpoint, is viewed as not being fair in the application of the law when it comes to election integrity? Because if you know future cases are going to be litigated, you want ultimately whatever judge makes a decision, you want the public to trust that judge. And unfortunately, she does not have the trust of the people that are working most closely with these issues in New Hampshire. So it's not like I'm saying New Hampshire is not necessarily the gold standard when compared on a national level to other states. That may very well be true. It's how is the public going to receive her judgments when she's making decisions involving these litigated election cases. And we need someone who's going to be able to take people and unite them and trust the outcome. And that's where I would just caution you that as qualified as she may be, that publicly, like you have to have that public trust. And she doesn't at this point, and I think there would be better qualified people that could handle this moving forward, because I don't wanna see our state divided. I don't wanna see people questioning the outcome of an audit or the ruling of a judge. I'd like to see people all on the same page and united with whoever we choose.
That answer your question, Councilman?
It is, I could go back and forth quite a while here.
I'm happy to be in,
But I won't do that.
like I have
But-
worked
but-
extensively. And I look at it from somebody who's looked into elections, but also I understand the media component of like what gets reported. I mean, when I was covering the Wyndham audit, there were people that were so like I was objectively trying to report exactly what happened, and some people thought there was something more sinister going on, other people thought whatever, and you have to realize that what ultimately ends up happening, like you have to have full transparency and trust of the public, otherwise it's just gonna be for nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? So like the media component of like when a judge makes a decision, if they don't have that public support, then it's going to cause more division, if anything.
Councilor Stevens, for a question.
Where do you reside? Are you in Hampshire?
Yeah, I live in